Welcome, folks, to another webinar from CAD Dimensions. My name is Kevin Holbrook. I'm one of our technical staff here at CAD Dimensions. Today's topic, we are going to talk a little bit about SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional, the data management solution that's available for SOLIDWORKS. We will also talk a little bit about PDM standard and some changes in 2016. Really, today we want to focus on how PDM Professional fits in organizations and what you can do as an organization to understand the issues that could be solved with PDM Professional and start to document some of those issues to see how much time is being lost by not having a data management solution in place and using Windows environment to do all this. The difference in this product from other products that we work with is that it's a little bit harder to quantify the savings in time because it's just what you do. You manage files in a Windows Explorer environment, and you're used to it. You're used to the idea that sometimes I can't find data, or sometimes I overwrite my data, or sometimes it just goes missing. Those things happen when you're working in the Windows environment, and because we're kind of so entrenched in this Windows way of life, it just becomes the new normal, and it doesn't need to be that way. So SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional is going to answer a few of those questions. Now, our agenda today, I want to in general just go over what is PDM. There's an acronym in there, and we need to understand what it means, what it could mean for your organization going forward. And then I want to just go over the 10 questions that I'm sure you run into, a majority of these on a daily basis. 10 questions that can be answered with a solution like PDM Professional. And I'm going to show you little bits and pieces of the software and how it handles those particular areas, and show you how that can help your organization. And then we'll open it up at the end for a little Q&A. So let's start out by talking about what is PDM Professional. Product data management is what the PDM acronym stands for. You might hear project data management. Really, in general, it's all of the information important to engineering. Now, we most often talk about SOLIDWORKS files because of the CAD world that we live in, but engineering data goes much further beyond that. Things like documentation, PDFs, other documentation testing information that you may provide with your product or your customer provides you. In cases of purchase parts, you might have spec sheets from the vendor. It's really a place to organize and control all of that information. Now, it doesn't do us any good to organize and control that information if we can't share it. So the professional version of this software really assumes that this data is now going to become open and available to other departments in your organization. We're going to start to let purchasing and manufacturing get into that data and access and share that data. The biggest aspect of this product is how it controls, secures that data throughout your daily work routine. So how you work with the data, it is able to mimic your internal process, your engineering process of how you create and release documents to other departments within the facility. So that is PDM Professional. Now, I think it warrants at this point to talk a little bit about the changes in SOLIDWORKS 2016 with a product called PDM Standard. Now, PDM Standard will come with your SOLIDWORKS Professional licenses. It will eventually replace the Workgroup product. Now, PDM Standard, just like the other tools that we include in SOLIDWORKS, has limited functionality when compared to PDM Professional. Now, I'm not going to go into all the functionality and where the limitations are. My recommendation is, and we'll talk about some of the next steps at the end, when you are looking at bringing on a PDM solution, look at professional and then just take a look at what capabilities you absolutely have to have. And then we can fit either standard or professional in there, and you can figure out what best suits your organization. Now, here's really the best way to look at how to understand whether your organization needs a PDM system. If you think about revenue and profit and what it takes to turn revenue into more profit, you look at all the different departments, you look at the processes, and all along the way you find deficiencies, right? You find that engineering is losing data, and that purchasing is sending out the wrong revision to be, to be manufactured or procured. Manufacturing is having trouble not getting ECOs up to engineering. They're building things to the wrong specs. All along the way there's issues. And if you think of it as a big pipe of revenue, and all along the way you have all of these little issues, by the time you get to the end, you have a much decreased profit because the revenue is used to fix or take more time to work on some of these issues along the way. So the goal of Enterprise PDM and PDM Professional is to look at all of these different leaks in the process and help them. Okay, how do we help with lost or overwritten data? How do we make sure people get the correct version? How do we facilitate ECOs? So it's got something for everyone within this process. So I know this is kind of initial discussions here in this webinar, but as I go through and show you a few things here, I think you'll start to make the connections to your own leaks in profitability, and that may help you. Now, I often get asked the question of how do PDM and PLM relate? And I just wanted to show this little illustration to understand how PDM Professional fits in the grand scheme of things, because there's a lot of things that can be done in a PLM system. PLM stands for Product Lifecycle Management. This allows us to really do everything in this big pie chart here. We focus specifically on a few areas of the PDM chart here. So we're going to focus on product reuse, ECNs, and collaborative engineering, and all the data surrounding that engineering data. Are we going to get into issue management? No. We're gonna focus on a PDM system to do that. Are we going to get into bidding and RFQ management? No. So these are different areas of an organization that are better handled through a PLM system. Now, PLM systems also have, in a lot of cases, their own PDM. So take, for instance, a product like SAP. SAP has the ability to store data within the PLM system. The issue is that it doesn't understand SOLIDWORks files very well. So a lot of organizations will use the CAD native PDM system to handle all the engineering and collaboration, and the PLM will handle all these other pieces of the pie. So I want to talk about 10 questions that can be answered by PDM Professional. These are questions that you probably ask of your coworkers or ask yourself on a daily basis. And I want to show you how we can go ahead and fix and show that we can do these things better with PDM Professional. Now, the first one relates to performance. What can I do to speed up performance of my SOLIDWORks? Now, the issue right now when dealing with the Windows environment is that you're opening up files across a network. Now, when it comes to PDM Professional. I want to talk a little bit about the file formats and the files. So here I am in PDM Professional. It's built in the Windows Explorer environment. Now, Windows Explorer, we're used to using this on a daily basis. So all I have to do is go to something we call our vault. I have an entry point into the vault, and I must log in and log off of this vault in order to get to the folders within it. Now, once I get to the folders themselves, I'm provided information about the files within that folder, much like a Windows environment. The difference is when I'm in this environment, you'll notice the top headers in what we call the file list has things like part number, description, file type, information about the particular files that I'm working with. Now, in terms of the question, how do I increase my performance, we need to talk about where the file resides. Now, if I look at this drawing for this control box, at the bottom of the Explorer interface are 6 tabs that work right along with me in the PDM environment. One of those tabs is called the version. This lets me know what version of the file I'm working on local to my hard disk. Now, one of the reasons why SOLIDWORKS can be slow currently is because you're opening across a network and it's constantly communicating. But if I wanted to open locally, I would have to copy all those files local and then move them back when I'm completed with them. With PDM Professional, it does it automatically. Watch this. I can grab any part here. Let's just say this door part. Let's pick one that does not have a local version here. Oh, I guess we'll have to use drawing. So there's no local file for the drawing. Watch what happens when I go to do a preview on this. It automatically shows me a preview in eDrawings, but if I go back to the version tab, it shows me that I now have a local version. So I didn't have to ask it for a new file. I didn't have to ask it to go to the server to bring me the file, but it brought me the file automatically local to my machine. And you're going to see anywhere between a 10 and 20% speed increase just by opening files local to your machine. So that's question number 1. How can I speed up performance? Well, PDM Professional does that automatically. How can I stop overwrites? What happens in Windows today when you open up a file, you make a change to it and hit save? What happens to the old data? The answer to that is it's gone. Okay, you've overwritten it. Now there are some things in Windows where you can retrieve older versions. It's not easy. It doesn't happen automatically, and I actually did find a way in Word the other day that it can retrieve unsaved versions that you may have accidentally removed, but it's not clear and it's not easy. So let's talk about PDM Pro and how it handles overwritten data. So here I have a file in SOLIDWORKS, and in SOLIDWORKS I also have a PDM add-in that allows me to see whether the file exists within the vault, and this one has yet to be saved in the vault. All I have to do is, what I always do is file save or save as, and I'm going to go to my vault, give the file a name. I'm just going to call this my test part, and it goes ahead and it will save that particular file within the vault. If I decide then to make a change to the file, I'm just going to make this a little bit thicker here. Okay. All I have to do is check the file in one more time. Checking in is the process of saying I've made a change and I want that change archived within the vault. I'll just call this made larger, and you'll notice that in the PDM tab inside of SOLIDWORKS, I now have version 2. Now this doesn't happen in Windows. When you save something, the old one's gone. In the PDM system, I'm able to go and retrieve older versions of the file. There is no more overwrites. When you make a change to a file, the system takes the old one and archives it and creates the new version. And you can see I can retrieve the old version and it will tell me that I have the old version. I can come back and get the new version if I like. Okay, so PDM Professional is going to help me answer, how can I stop the overwrites? Okay, it's just not going to happen. It's not something that you're going to have to think about. Now, here's something that I'll add to this. If you have SOLIDWORKS users, if you've ever opened up a SOLIDWORKS assembly and it's kind of blown up, its mates are blown up because of a part change, the old version of the assembly that was good will always be intact, because once you get something in the system and all the mates and everything is correct, it can't change. It's locked down. All you can do is create a new version, but the older version is always going to be there intact. What this will do is help you with rework of data. Now, next question. Where was that part used in the past? How many times have you asked this of yourself? You're going to make a change to the part. You don't know where it was even used. Well, let's take a look at how PDM Pro might help us with that. If I look at a particular project in here and pick a file, any file, let's try to find a bushing in here. So here's a bushing, and we're going to make a change. We're going to spec out a new bushing from a supplier, and I want to make sure I understand how many times we've used this bushing in other products. All I have to do in PDM Professional is select the component and then select where used. Now, where something is used, that question can be quite complex, because in the world of files that have multiple revisions, and in the world of SOLIDWORKS where there's multiple configurations, the question, again, becomes more complex. So right now, I'm looking at this 201758. That's been used on this subassembly. That subassembly was used on this subassembly, which was used on 3 upper-level assemblies that also have drawings. So the full hierarchy of what the potential change or impact of change is shown to you by PDM Professional. Now, to complicate this a little further, there's a pull-down menu here in the Where Used, where I can say, you know what, where was revision A used? Well, revision A was used on this structure. Well, what about version 2 of this file? Well, version 2 of this 201758 was used in version 2 of all these files. Notice we can also, if there was configurations, we can select which configuration. Think of some of the hardware or some of the products that we design that have multiple variations. Well, where did this configuration get used? Now, this makes it very easy to identify when a change is going to occur, where it might need to be changed as well. So PDM Professional is going to answer, where was that part used in the past? How about the question, why do I always lose critical data? How many of you have went searching for data and not been able to find it? The issue isn't necessarily that you haven't been able to find it. The issue is you spent an hour looking for it. When you couldn't find it in that hour, you went and talked to your coworkers and spent another half hour asking them if they can find it, and they also went out there searching. And then in the end, when you couldn't find it, you recreated it anyway. So now you're anywhere from 1 to 3 to a full day just because you lost data. When it comes to PDM Professional, the information that we put within the vaulted system is all searchable. So my vault here has different what we call search cards. I have the ability to search on all sorts of information surrounding the file, from the file name and the description to all the history, to all the things that might have been typed in to describe the file, to the metadata, or what you refer to as custom properties in SOLIDWORKS. What if I was looking for an indicator light? I just type in indicator. I can use wildcard searches. I can put file extensions. And when I search, it's very, very fast. Microsoft SQL is the database behind the system, and it allows us to retrieve that information very, very quickly. Now, if you've ever tried to search for something in Windows, what happens? You got to know the file name, otherwise you don't know nothing. You're searching through folders. It makes it a lot harder. Now, I've got a bunch of information about the file. Now I may be able to go to a tab titled Data Card. Data Card allows me to select the file and find out a little bit of information about that file. This is an indicator light that comes in red, blue, green, white, and yellow. Okay, I can find out the vendor. I can find out the part number. I know where it is. It's in the library within the vault. I can even find the path. Okay, so now I can go find that data, drag and drop it. Actually, right from this window, I can drag and drop it into SOLIDWORKS and reuse it. But I also see, what other files are in there. I got a drawing for an indicator light. I got some indicator tags. I can find everything with indicators. So data becomes much, much more searchable in a system like this, PDM Professional. So how do I maintain revisions? So we haven't mentioned revisions up to this point. Everything that I've created is what we call a version. So if we look at the file that I created initially, this test part, that test part is version 2. Now when I'm ready to release that, I must follow a workflow, a process. Now the process behind my PDM Professional Vault is out of the box, where I can go ahead and submit something for approval or send it right to a release, which I'm going to do here. But it's the system that dictates when a revision gets assigned to a file. And you'll notice here with this column, you can see revision A has been assigned now to this test part. Okay? Once a revision is assigned, now it's an official release, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, so maintaining revisions is a byproduct of the system itself. Now the next 4 things really work together, because before we start creating data and before we start versioning and revisioning, we want to create consistent storage of that data. So how do I create consistent storage and why? In the case of different projects or products, it seems like everyone has their own way of sorting data. So you may create your own folder structure, maybe a folder for SOLIDWORKS files, a miscellaneous folder, a code folder. Really, it's the benefit of your organization to unify that and make the folder structures all the same. Well, in PDM Professional, I have the ability to launch something we call a template. A template just asks your users a little bit about the file. Okay, in this case, I know the project that I'm creating. It's a test tank. And I know the customer's CAD dimensions. By providing some information, now you design what information you want to gather from the user. But what it essentially does is it will automatically go through, grab the next project number available. In this case, mine was 2019. Automatically populated it with the folder structure that I desire, which is 3 folders, the design data folder being my SOLIDWORKS data, and it automatically put a project checklist in there. So it can populate it with predefined documents. Now this is a way of standardizing how folders are created and projects are created. Maybe your sales department gets a sales order in and they're able to create the project with project number and information already in it. So you already have a way to store that data. Makes it real easy. Now from there, how can I bring in data and then restrict it from certain groups? Well, let's take a look here. Let's go back to our PDM Professional and let's bring in some data here. Let's take this, put that aside, and then grab some files here. this side here. So I want to just grab some files I have on my system. And we'll use a Control A to select them all and drag and drop them directly into a folder that I want them all to reside within the vaulted system. Now you'll notice as soon as I drop them in, the PDM professional is going to look into all the files, see what information exists, and then populate the file list with things like description, if it found any revision information in any of these files. So these are files that existed locally and not in the vault. Well, now they exist in the vault. Now, I happen to be working as somebody from engineering. In this case, I have access to all of the files, okay? But let me just log off for a second and log in as somebody from manufacturing. Okay, so if I decide that I want manufacturing to see the data, I have the choice to restrict their access to when they can see the data. And you'll notice when I come in here now, the files are non-existent for manufacturing. They go to the exact same folder. They don't see anything. Now the reason for this is permissions that you can build inside this system. I'm able to control who has access to what data and when. So when I go back in as engineering, I can see all that information. Now getting the information into the vault is very simple. I perform a check-in of all the data in one shot. What I want you to watch is when I check in, watch this column titled State. Okay? When I check in, all the files enter the process. And you'll notice some of them are work in process, some of them were automatically published, like several of the PDFs. Now we control what the process is. You already have a process. We typically will set up PDM Professional to mimic your process. But this is what I want to show. Now that I've checked them in, I'm going to go back in as somebody from manufacturing to show you what happened here. If I go to that same folder, I can see only the products that were published. So PDM Professional is controlling access to that data by your users. Makes it very easy, makes it so you don't have to think about it anymore. You're just controlling the permissions of the user themselves. Okay. All right, how can I simplify references? And I think this is the one piece that immediately out of the box that SOLIDWORKS users are just going to love. What we hate in SOLIDWORKS is managing the relationships between the files, managing the fact that this part is pointing to a part in another folder, or this name of a file in another folder. Let's take a look at how PDM Professional is going to help that. Now here I have a drawing. If I look at the tab titled Contains, it shows me the references and relationships that we see in SOLIDWORKS. You can see the drawing consists of one single part. You can see where they're both stored. They happen to be in the same folder. Now, there's two things that we would never do as SOLIDWORKS users. First of all, I would never slow click and change the name of a file inside of Windows, right? If I called this a new part number, what would happen to the drawing is the drawing would no longer understand that that part was there because it's looking for the old name. If I look at PDM Professional though, go to the drawing, it says, hey, that part has a new part number, but it's still in the same folder. So key number one is you're going to be able to change the name of files without having to worry about references. Number two, I may decide later on that this particular part is now going to be something we reuse on multiple projects. So I want to put this in my library. If I wanted to in the Windows environment in PDM Pro, I could move the file. Now, we would not do that in Windows today because the software wouldn't understand that they're still related and where it is. But look in PDM Pro. The drawing says this is the part attached, and look at the found in path. It knows exactly where the file is located. So all those times during your day where you have to think about file relationships and file naming go away. They completely go away with PDM Pro. Okay, it's number one function for the PDM system as it relates to SOLIDWORKS users. All right. Last one, can I automate PDF file creation? In a lot of cases, you're creating PDFs of release drawings and you're placing them in a folder for manufacturing, and it becomes your responsibility as an engineer when you release a drawing to automatically update that folder in that PDF for manufacturing or sales or other departments in your organization. PDM Pro can automate the file creation of PDFs. Now I want to go out just for a little bit. I want to take you into the back end just for a brief moment here to show you how we make this happen. Now I mentioned the permissions and controlling who has access to what. This is all done through a workflow. A workflow is really your electronic process. It's just like a Visio chart of how you move data through your organization. But what I want to point out here is the approval process. When I go from pending approval to approved, I can make things happen. We call them actions. And one of my actions is to execute a task to create a PDF file. I'm going to show you how this works in real time here. So let's just take this drawing. I want to change the state. I want to submit it for approval. Now when I submit it for approval, I can move that part, my library part, along with it. I can tell it to please take a look. So I'm telling somebody to look at my file at this point. Then I can come in and get the approver involved. In this case, his name's Andrew. And when I go to the approver, go to that same file, which you can see now is pending approval, I can now approve it and release both the part and the drawing together. Okay, when I do so, this is what triggers, oh, not sure what happened there, change state approve. Yeah, let's just move the drawing. When I approve it, the software in my case is going to ask me if I want to create a PDF. Now this window does not need to come up. This could happen automatically. I had it come up so I can show you some of the automation. So the system automatically asks me what file I want to automatically create. So PDF being one of them. But some of you are auto exporting DXF, DWG, maybe creating e-drawings, parasolids, steps, creating information on the fly. We can control where it goes. So the path that the file gets created, and the file name, which configurations and which sheets. So in the case of this, we'll create a PDF and say OK. Now when I do that, it sends it to a job queue. And you'll notice here in just a few moments that SOLIDWORKS will pop up in the corner and it will automatically create my PDF file for me. Kind of see the cursor making some movement there. Now think of this, unattended. I don't have to worry about it. It opens it in SOLIDWORKS. It does a save as PDF with the settings I have supplied. So again, cutting down some of that time that engineering takes to create certain things. Okay, so let's just recap real quick. Some 10 questions that can be answered by PDM Pro. We can speed up performance by bringing the files locally. We can stop overwrites by creating automatic versions. Each time you check in, the old version is archived and the new version is available. We have where used capabilities, so we can find out where a part was used in the past. If you're going to make a change on an ECN, you understand how it might affect other assemblies within your organization. I can help you not lose critical data by giving you the ability with Microsoft SQL to search not only the file name, but folders, metadata, custom properties, revision, all sorts of information describing the files that you placed in the vault. So you'll lose less critical data and be able to gain some time not having to search for that data. PDM Pro can automatically maintain revisions through a workflow process. That workflow process is automated through the system, so as soon as you release something, the revision is assigned. PDM Pro will allow you to create project templates that will automatically specify the folder structure in which you store data so that you're consistently storing it across different projects. And we can restrict which versions are available to different groups. So until something is released, it doesn't get accessed by manufacturing. We will no longer have to worry about file naming and file references because once it's in the vault, I can move it anywhere I want with permissions, and I can change the file name as long as I have permissions to do so. But I don't have to worry about what happens to the files that are using it. And then lastly, it automatically creates file formats for me, such as PDF. It can automatically name it, automatically place it in the location which you desire. Now, I want to thank everyone for attending today. We do have some next steps. Hopefully this was many of you's first look at PDM Professional. In Q1 of next year, we're going to be running PDM Professional hands-on test drives where we bring you in. We have a vault set up. You can even bring your own data. Let's put stuff in the vault. Let's learn how to move it through the workflow. Let's learn about check-in, check-out, and working in SOLIDWORKS or working in Office. Definitely ask your SOLIDWORKS sales representative about this. These are definitely great sessions that allow you to really, truly understand how this is going to affect your day-to-day work. We also are offering something we call a document management process review. For those of you who think you might have some document management issues, we'll bring in one of our technical reps as well as the sales rep, and we'll talk about your management process, talk about the issues that you're having, and allow us to kind of dig up some of those areas in which PDM will definitely help you. So please contact your sales rep if you're interested in any of these. I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you in the next couple days. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, please post them in the questions section, and I will answer them before I leave.
Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and our blog for more great content by clicking on the links in the description below.